Hey, you beautiful people. I wanted to share this with you as it's only just happened. It's happened today. Um, Last night I woke around, well, actually, exactly at 4:22 a.m. Um, to a really deep silence. But I know that I was woken. Um, Many of you will know that that's something that happens to me from time to time. And I dreamt of a very old friend, a friend I once was given in a mediumship development group around about 27 years ago. Um, I'm sure that my uncle will remember those times. We sat in development circle together for a very, very short time that we sat in that circle and that development group. Um, and I was given this this being within that group. Someone said he was standing beside me and behind me, and I really understand all these years later what it means when someone says spirit is standing beside you and behind you. Um, and he was a young Indian warrior, and I come to know him, and I called him Stars in His Eyes. And he once told me that he stood on the land of his fathers and his forefathers, where he lived alongside the Great Spirit. That everything they needed was provided by the Great Spirit. He lived in harmony with that Spirit, within what we would call the sacred hoop of life. A sense of living with and living a part of and living in harmony. And I think that I'm seeing, and I'm blessed to see this, that because of being able to share time with people all around the world, from Europe to Portugal, to Singapore, to Australia, to the United States, to New Zealand, I'm being able to kind of really see what's kind of happening within these pockets, within these communities, within these most incredible spaces that are being created by people. And there is this this sense of that so much had kind of come out of balance, and I was talking about that in my last video about equinox. It's a time of here in the UK of equal light and equal dark, and thereafter we tip into the darker part of the year. But there is this sense of we collectively, humanity has moved so far out of balance that in so many ways everything is trying to rebalance that. The earth itself, and this global event that we're all living through, it has the potential to bring so much back into balance, so much back into simplicity. And that's what I'm seeing with all these kind of beautiful communities that I'm blessed to share time with online and talk with, and they're sharing knowledge with me and wisdom, and I'm learning so much. It's such a gift. And what I'm seeing is this rebalancing. So many people kind of beginning to live a lot more lightly and live in more harmony, living with the environment, with the land, rather than off of it and from it. So this incredible being that appeared 27 years ago, and I used to keep a journal. I used to write back then, and these are the words, and I'm going to read them off my notes. Here are the words that followed. He once told me that he stood on the land of his fathers and forefathers, where he lived alongside the Great Spirit, that everything they had needed was provided by the Great Spirit. He had lived in harmony with that Spirit within the sacred hoop of life. The sky was full of stars, and there were so many buffalo, yet a great darkness swept over the land, and that darkness carried sadness and heaviness. It brought with it the white man, the big man. And he made false promises, and his heart was bitter, deceitful, and full of greed. As time went by, the sky dulled, and one by one the stars went out. Those were his words, and those words I have never forgotten. I haven't seen or felt him in over 25 years. So last night, waking up, and then absolutely my dream being so fresh, and I think that's why I was woken up, was to anchor the dream, to remember the dream. I'm not sure that I would have forgotten it, but I sat there and I clearly remembered that dream of him sitting there, and that's going to come clear because he instructed, he guided me, and I'm going to share that with you in a moment. So I haven't seen him or felt him in over 25 years. And I wrote in my blog today, in over 143 years, what has changed? Since October the 5th, 1877, what has changed? It's cold and we have no blankets. The little children are freezing to death. My people, some of them have run away to the hills and have no blankets, no food. No one knows where they are, perhaps freezing to death. I want to have time to look for my children and see how many I can find. Maybe I shall find them among the dead. Hear me, my chiefs. I am tired. My heart is sick and sad. From where the sun now stands, I will fight no more forever. October the 5th, 1877, handing over his rifle in a symbolic gesture of surrender. The accuracy of the transcription is in doubt, yet there are the words of historical account of a chief of the time, words which amounted to, from where the sun now stands, I will fight no more. So much time has passed, yet little has changed. Humanity has evolved so little. The same lies being told, the same need for greed and bitterness and pursuit of wealth and control, profit before people. What's any different to 1877? My old friend in the early hours of this morning told me to pick up my drum. Pick up my drum that had been in safekeeping with a very dear friend who had recently returned it to me. The words that followed, the message that followed, the knowing that followed was this: pick up your drum and with red paint place a handprint, the handprint of yourself on that drum, the handprint of your young one on that drum, the handprint of your father on that drum. And may it represent the generational line of wisdom. Let those handprints form a circle within the drum, representing those who come before us and those who are yet to come. Reweaving the sacred hoop, dreaming and drumming it back into harmony. That was a message from my old friend, stars in his eyes. You know, I sat there and was completely in awe because I'd kind of gifted this drum to a dear friend of mine, and this was a while back, some time back, and it had been sitting and I hadn't been using it, and I felt, you know, to gift it to him. And I remember him saying to me and looking at me and looking right at me and saying to me, you know what, thank you, and I will use it. But if there ever comes a time where you want that drum back, you only ever have to ask. And you know, a long time went past, and then suddenly I had this knowing and this feeling that I had to ask for it back, and I felt quite uncomfortable about that. But I remembered his words. I remember him looking right at me and saying, if there ever comes a point in time where you want the drum back, all you have to do is ask. And I did, and it was before this crazy event that's happened in the world, and he did. You know, he lives, you know, a few hundred miles away now, and maybe not as much as that, but not far off. And he did. He on one of his trips, not long after, he brought it back. And I was feeling this sense of a handprint being really important, and it in my left hand being really important. It was this sense of placing my hand on the drum and almost connecting to the heart of the drum. And I'd done some research to what paint could be used and how that could come about. And then I kind of tucked the drum away, and every few days I'd pick the drum up and I'd just connect and I'd listen, and I started to learn to play very gently. I've had this many years. I've had this drum maybe the best part of 20 years, you know, and looked after her really well. And then, you know, this morning of, you know, being guided and that very clear message to get some red paint, acrylic paint, I feel, red paint, and to place the handprint of myself and get my little one to place the handprint, and then my dad to place his handprint. That generational line within a circle, you know, those that have come before us and those that are yet to come, and the circle, it was profound. You know, this drum now has taken on a whole new lease of life and will have meaning for such a long time. For as long as it lives, it will have so much meaning. And it was such a powerful message, and it was this sense of, you know, reweaving the sacred hoop, dreaming and drumming that hoop back into harmony. You know, a powerful friend, a powerful message from a very powerful place, from a very old friend that appeared very early on in my development. There was him and a Chinaman that appeared, around about 27 years ago. But I kind of, looked at that this morning and thought it's iconic that this message was shared on this day, October the 1st, 2020. And it's a time where, Facebook are stringent with their new content and censorship policies that, in a way, I feel, are kind of intended to silence truth. For now I'm unsure what to do with that, so for now I do nothing. And it's also a full moon. And I thought to myself, how about that from here on, every full moon, that we gather on our doorsteps? And that sounds really familiar here in the UK. We gather on our doorsteps with our drums and our flutes and our voices, and we reweave and dream and drum and call back the sacred circle, the sacred hoop, reclaim the last 100 and more years of tyranny and persecution, and stripped back liberties in the name of progression and growth. Let those drums be heard as an act of collective humanity, freedom and community, of tribe, and an act of defiance to misinformation and censorship, and for being well and truly effed over. Because we have. As we here in the UK, as you, those of you across that great big pond, as we enter that darkness, those darker, longer nights, and tonight we ride the tide of this dark full moon. It's known, today's full moon is known as the dark full moon. May the beat of the drum guide you now, and may it guide you always. I want to read this to you, and this come into my awareness. I heard it on the radio as I was writing. It's by Joan Baez. May God's blessing keep you always. May your wishes all come true. May you always do for others and let others do for you. May you build a ladder to the stars and climb on every rung. May you stay forever young. May you grow up to be righteous. May you grow up to be true. May you always know the truth. May you see the light surrounding you. May you always be courageous, stand upright and strong, and may you stay forever young. May your hands always be busy, and may your feet always be swift. May you have a strong foundation when the winds of change shift. May your heart always be joyful, and may your song always be sung. May you stay forever young. Blessing upon you and those you love, and in these times of great change. Magic comes in many forms. by the powers of 3 times 3. This is my will, so may it be. God bless. I'll be seeing you real soon.